most expensive thing about going to the World Cup was never the ticket. The ticket is the one part of this that is the same for everyone. A fan in Dakar and a fan in Dallas pay the same number for the same seat. Around $200, give or take, for a place in the group stage. On resale, that seat can cost $1,000, but leave that aside and call it $200 for all of them. Everything else, the flight, the visa, the bed for the night, is priced by where you were born. This is what it really costs to go to the World Cup. Not in dollars, because dollars hide it. In how much of your own life you hand over to stand in that crowd. Once every 4 years, the whole world tries to crowd into the same few cities. It is the one event that belongs to everyone and is priced like it belongs to no one. Same grass, same 90 minutes, same final whistle for all of them. The only thing the tournament charges fairly is the seat itself. After that, fairness ends at the turnstile. From there, the bill is written in a currency, a distance, and a passport, almost never in football. So we will count it the honest way, in days and weeks and months of work. Start where the tournament actually is, the countries holding it. An American buys the seat and drives to the stadium. No flight, no visa, no passport needed at all. $200 against a month that clears $6,000. The whole World Cup costs him an afternoon of work. He could go to 3 group games and still spend less than some fans spend on the flight alone. South of the border, a Mexican fan does the same. The games are in his country too. He takes the bus in. The ticket is a bigger bite of a smaller wage, but it is still only about a week of work. For both of them, the tournament is simply something happening down the road. While they decide which game to go to, fans on the other side of the planet are already saving for the flight. The host fan's biggest decision is where to park. For others, it is whether the trip is possible at all. When the world comes to your doorstep, the ticket is the whole price. Cross the Atlantic and the seat does not change. The journey does. An English fan needs no visa, $40 online, and he is cleared to fly. A flight, a few nights in a cheap room, the same $200 seat. He grumbles about the airfare in the group chat and books it anyway. To him, it is a long weekend with a famous match in the middle of it. He will be home by Monday, mildly out of pocket, complaining happily. Call it 2.5 weeks of work. Irritating, affordable. A Spanish fan has the same easy door, a slightly longer flight, a slightly smaller wage. 3.5 weeks for him. The gap between the two is small because the thing that makes it easy they both already carry. A strong passport is the cheapest thing you can pack. Go further south, and the welcome cools. A Brazilian fan needs a visa now. $185, an interview, a wait. The flight is long, the wage is near $700 a month. He saves through the spring, the way you save for something you have decided not to talk yourself out of. No card, no installments, just months of putting a little aside and telling no one. It is the kind of trip you mention to your family only once it is already paid for. The trip is 2.5 months of his working life. His Argentine neighbor earns a little more on paper, but his money sits in a currency that can lose its footing overnight. Between booking the flight and boarding it, the same trip can quietly grow by a month's wages. He is not only paying for the match, he is betting it still costs the same on the day he flies. Inflation is a second ticket price, and nobody tells him the number until he lands. When your money will not hold still, the price keeps moving after you have agreed to it. Notice what has not changed in any of this. The seat. $200, the same as it was for the American who drove in from down the road. Everything that has grown is the distance, the document, and the wage standing behind it. Now the distances get serious. A Japanese fan flies further than almost anyone here, 6,000 miles, 2 stops, and he barely feels it. He treats the furthest journey on the planet like a business trip with better seats. The miles are real, the sacrifice is not. Strong passport, strong wage, the longest flight on the board still costs him about a month. Distance is cheap if you are rich enough. Beside him, a fan from Uzbekistan, a country at its first World Cup in its entire history. Same continent, almost the same distance from home. But the wage is a fraction of his neighbor's, and the passport opens fewer doors. The visa, the flight, the bed, the seat, 6 months of work. 6 months to witness a first his country waited its whole life for. His team is finally in it. The hardest part was never the football. Generations of his countrymen never saw their flag at a World Cup. He might, if the wage stretches far enough. For the Japanese fan, it is a trip. For him, it is a pilgrimage he can barely afford. Same flight path, two completely different prices for the same devotion. The longer your country has been welcome in the world, the cheaper the world is to reach. And then there is the continent that travels the hardest of all. A Moroccan fan, his team reached the semifinals last time, the pride of a continent. The flight is manageable, the visa is not free, the wage is small. 4 months of work to follow them again. He did this in Qatar 4 years ago. He knows exactly what it takes. Following his team is a budget line that comes around every 4 years, and he plans for it like a wedding. A Senegalese fan does the very same trip on half that wage. 10 months, most of a year, for 90 minutes of football. And he counts it cheap because his side is on the pitch. That is the quiet part of all of this. The people who pay the most are usually the ones who want it the most. He will remember it longer than the fan who barely noticed paying. And for some fans, it has stopped being a price at all. Certain passports must now post a bond just to apply, $5, $10, $15,000, held by a government that can still look at them and say no. Not a fee he loses, a fortune he cannot touch until they decide. He does the paperwork, posts the money, waits the months, and the answer is a coin toss. His team can be on the pitch, and the country hosting can still decide he is not welcome to watch. He carries the full cost of a trip he may never be allowed to take. Years of wages frozen for the chance to be turned away. Some people are not priced out of the World Cup. They are locked out of it. Same match, same seat, the same $200 ticket in every hand. An afternoon for one fan, most of a year for another. A long weekend for the European, a season of saving for the South American, half a working year for the African. And for a third, a locked door he pays to stand in front of. The match treats all of them as equals. Nothing on the way to it does. The closer you live to the money, the cheaper the whole world is to reach. Distance you can pay down. A shaky currency you can fight. A passport you are mostly handed at birth. 3 things set the real price: what you earn, how far you sit, and the cover of the book you were born inside. 2 of them you can sometimes outwork, the third just decides for you. That is what it really costs to go to the World Cup. Not the ticket, it was never the ticket. It was the distance between where you were born and where the world chose to gather. One ship changes everything.